Well, Professor Sabine Dhir.
Hello.
Assistant professor of strategy and organization here at McGill.
Yes.
Academic director of MDIIM, so the institute behind Delve, and the International Masters for Health Leadership.
Yes.
So many titles. Welcome to Delve. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It is wonderful to be on this side of the Delve recording video podcasting booth.
Totally. This is going to be fun. I mean, we've been working together a long time.
We have.
And then the idea came up, at least to do some, talking about some movies and the management lessons that lie within them. Just something fun to do over the summertime. And I had asked you if you wanted to do one. And then we spent some time thinking about, what we actually wanted to cover. You had mentioned The Devil Wears Prada. You seemed reluctant, but I was very excited about it. Maybe more excited than I should have, because I have nice memories about this movie. It came out when I was a kid. I remember watching it when I was younger, and then rewatching it recently to prepare for this was interesting.
Yeah.
I know you've rewatched it recently.
Yes.
How does it hold up? What'd you think?
Oh, man, that's such a great question. So I think it holds up quite well. I think there's a number of reasons why it holds up quite well and why there's been enough momentum to obviously create a second Devil Wears Prada. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't happen lightly when there's a sequel these many years later. And I think it's for so many reasons. It's a coming of age story, and those are quite compelling right off the bat. It speaks to themes and challenges that I think, unfortunately, are still quite prevalent and persistent today, which I think is what we're going to get into. It does that, gives us a behind-the-scenes look into a world that is dynamic and impactful and powerful that so few people have access to, the general population. There's an appreciation, I think, for someone who enjoys media or culture or consumption of any kind about the world around them.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I guess maybe now's a good time for maybe a quick synopsis for folks that haven't seen it.
Please go ahead.
So it follows our main character, Anne Hathaway. So she plays a character called Andy Sachs. She's an aspiring journalist. Can't find work in her field, which is a story that I think a lot of journalists will be familiar with.
And you people who are young, right? And fresh out of school and interested in entering the world of work.
That's totally right. Yeah. So then she ends up at this fashion magazine applying for a job as an assistant. She doesn't even quite want it. But she manages to impress the editor-in-chief. So that's Meryl Streep's character, Miranda. And then basically the rest of the film kind of follows her kind of progression into that world and just sort of trying to find her way through this space and learning a lot about herself in the process and the industry. Yeah. And then we get to witness these kind of crazy organizational dynamics. I think maybe the first question I think I'll throw to you is kind of like a daily management question, because it's really about working with people. I mean, I've had the privilege of working with you for a long time, so I think I kind of have a sense of how you'll answer this question. But I mean, the editor-in-chief, so Miranda, Meryl Streep's character, so she has this brutal management style. Yeah. Like she's quite direct and curt with the people who report to her. Yeah. I don't know. And this is a very high performance environment. Like it's a very prestigious magazine. Like, do you need that kind of like hostility or what I read as hostility when you're doing that, when you're managing people in that kind of high performance environment?
Yeah. I mean, Eric, you know me well enough to know that I don't think that that's acceptable in any way, shape, or form. I think 20 years ago, there was more of the mythologizing around that singular leader that was going to shape an entire organization and all the people who worked under them. That principle that we refer to as the heropreneur, right? That single individual who's responsible for everything. And Miranda Priestly, as editor-in-chief of Runway magazine in this scenario, it's akin to Steve Jobs and Apple and Elon Musk and all the giant, titans that we think of. There's few women that are in that category. So it is a style that I think gets a lot of credibility. But the reality is, as many people appreciate, it's more than just a single individual. And that's clear when you watch the movie, how many people are involved, how many art departments and beauty departments and editors and photographers in order for this, publication to exist. So is that necessary? I would say for the sanity of the people who work under Miranda Priestly, From a health and wellness perspective, obviously not. But is it effective? And I think that's the tension here. And Miranda gets what she wants by embodying this kind of dragon lady that she is very well aware of. She knows how people are responding to her. She is very aware of the fact that a single look or a glance, the absence of a smile, a mere head shake can derail entire careers. So she owns that power.
Yeah.
It's done in a way that is incredibly, as you said, hostile. I think that is absolutely the right word. Is it necessary for her in this? It works. Now, is there capacity and room to do something differently? I think so. In a high-pressure environment such as this, I think that, if anything, you want more people to help shoulder the challenge and the burden that you have to carry.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, that, like, the people around her seem to tolerate it. Like, the folks who are in this game, I mean, because they all have their personal ambitions, right? Like,
absolutely.
So Stanley Tucci's character, actually, Nigel. So he eventually, he was there for something like 20 years, and then he finally has an opportunity to spin off and do his own thing. But, and then so he's able to find his success in his way. But
he isn't. So that's the thing, right? In Nigel's case, right, he tolerates it. And Miranda dangles this opportunity for him to become a major part of another fashion brand, and then she snatches it away. And his response is very much, well, she'll reward me when it's time. And the same thing for that assistant, that poor Emily character, who tolerates quite a lot of indignities and challenges. And a part of it is that they tolerate it, but is it a choice? Right? And that also comes up a lot as a theme in this movie. What do we actually choose? Especially when we feel we don't have a choice.
Yeah.
And how much of, because, and I think that some of the brilliance in this Miranda character is how she's able to use her authority and power and encourage, let's say, the people around her to make decisions that are going to compromise maybe what they would have naturally wanted to do in service of Miranda's goal.
Yeah.
So, for example, the first one, the classic example, I would say, is where Andy gets to go to Paris, and it is her job to inform Emily that she's no longer going, right?
Right. So Emily is the other assistant. Andy is our protagonist, who, ironically, didn't want to be in this situation at first.
No, exactly.
But it has, but I guess she has her own ambitions too.
She has her own ambitions. And I think, and that's another theme, the kind of ambitions that we put on. Like we kind of, if you take a clothing metaphor, we try on the ambitions of something that looks like something that's a marker of success, right? So poor Emily, the first assistant, has been toiling away, and her big reward for having done all this work and running around and fetching coffee and walking the dog and late night calls and all those awful things that the first assistant is subjected to, her reward is to finally get to go to Paris Fashion Week and wear the clothes and go to the parties. And that gets taken away from her because Miranda's decided that, you know what, I want my second assistant, Andy, to go. And you know what, Andy, you get to be the one to tell Emily.
It's so cruel.
It's very cruel, but it happens. And and Andy, that character does say, I didn't have a choice. When it's pointed out to her, I could never stab anybody in the back, Miranda, like you did to Nigel. And she says, but you already did.
Yeah. I mean, and the irony of all this is that, Andy's character claims to not care about the fashion industry at all.
No.
Like, at least she starts that way.
Yeah.
She's a trained journalist. Her credentials are impeccable. Like, she should have been at the New York Times or something. Or that's the kind of job that she was pining for.
Mm-hmm.
She ends up here. I don't know. And then she almost wasn't hired. But then she sticks up for herself in the interview. Miranda hires her anyway. Because of that spunk, and yet somehow she ends up shoehorned in this assistant role. And that just feels like a dramatic misuse of her talents. Maybe that Miranda could have found something else for her to do that kind of played up to her skills. Yeah.
So it's interesting because that wasn't the job that they were hiring for.
Yeah.
Right. So it's clear what you're describing is someone who's young and eager, who has a, up until now, Andy, she's gone to university. She's done great work. I think at some point she's won some kind of national award for her writing. Exactly. She's been writing about, striking bus workers. This is really meaty stuff and it's valid in its own right. But now she's in a completely different arena. Mm-hmm. And the arena here is looking for someone to do this second assistant job. And it's repeated many times by many people. A million girls would kill for this job.
Yeah. And I guess my question, throughout, just I've had a stint in media too, so it's it was interesting to kind of compare that to some of my experiences. But would this have been should she have gone through that job? There must have been other ways for her to get to where she actually wanted to be, or where she said she wanted to be. But for young people,
oh my goodness, Eric, this is such a good question.
Curious what kind of advice you would have.
Okay,
to that,
so I can't speak to this. We can't fault Andy, and we don't at any point, right? Because she doesn't actually apply for this job. She gets a call.
Yeah.
And so she shows up, and like any person, who is young and is entering the world of work, you want to be able to say that you've tried something out, right? And I think a part of it is her initial misunderstanding, which is, how hard could this be?
Yeah.
Right? This isn't serious. The decision making around what belt, what is these seem like superfluous, ridiculous decisions that are reserved for, in the shower when you're trying to make a decision to get out the door kind of thing. This isn't serious. And obviously that she gets put in her place around that. So I think a part of her desire is just the not knowing, right? We underestimate how much we really don't know.
Yeah.
At the same time, she does try to the best of what she thinks is required of the job.
Yeah.
Right. And she does it to a certain point until, right. And once again, that Nigel character comes in and says, oh, please, you're really not trying very hard. And then, that's like a turning point for her, that choice to say, you know what? Okay, you're right. I've been phoning it in.
Yeah.
I actually do need to inhabit this world. I need to understand this world. I need to be immersed in this world. Now, for Andy, a part of that also, right, is that she starts to let go of some of the things that I think, she had held on to as a sense of integrity and the things that she thought were important. Missing her boyfriend's birthday, getting herself into questionable circumstances with friends. So that aspect, right? She immerses herself so to the point that all of a sudden she feels compromised, and it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it's always challenging when you hear people say, I just need to stick it out. Mm-hmm. I just need to stick it out for a year. Now, in many cases, there's not a choice about that, right? There's decisions that we have to make that are going to support our ability to pay rent, to buy food, to live in a place like New York City. Mm-hmm. But if that's the approach, that should also be a signal, right?
Yeah.
What is it about the fact that I'm just tolerating this environment to make it to the next step?
Yeah, that's true. And I just think about how much a first job like that. Yeah, because you are learning what's normal and what's not.
You're supposed to learn those first couple of jobs, first right out of school. I've having gone through those experiences. Your job is to spend some time figuring out what you like and what you don't like, what the world of work means to you.
Yeah.
Where you find fulfillment, the things that you want to potentially pursue in the second or third job. So understanding that. Having said that, it's fascinating because so few people have the opportunity to have a first job in this very rarefied world.
Totally.
With such a high level of pressure, with so much at stake, so close, right, to the CEO. That I think is somewhat atypical for an organization of that size.
Yeah, and I think too about why the fashion magazine seemed less than to her, why she didn't have as much respect for it in the beginning. Because like you mentioned, Nigel gives her a bit of a hard time, being like, you're not trying hard enough. And I think, and he also kind of helped show her why fashion and this kind of expression, why it's important to people,
Yeah.
And I think that, to me, that seemed like a turning point for her. She's like, oh, wait a minute, this matters in a different way than maybe I thought before.
Yep.
But I think there are a lot of jobs like that and careers and industries
Yep.
where like, something like fashion might be more feminine coded. So it's
Yep.
kind of like not as respected as maybe some other fields
Yeah.
in the general consciousness, But I'm just curious, like what are your thoughts there? Like, it seems like the movie did have something to say about that.
You're right. There's less importance attributed to Runway as a magazine in the movie than, let's say, what Andy's initial things that she wants to do, right? She wants to work for New York Magazine. So the more literary, or the New Yorker, the more literary cousins to Runway. And I think there's this perception that if it's pretty, or if it looks good, how deep could it be, right? There's this constant tension between sacrificing what something looks like versus how important and how relevant it is.
Yeah.
And this is, I'm not going to go back generations, but even recently, right? If it was serious and important, you didn't need to dress it up.
Yeah.
Right? It should stand on its own, right? There's a reason why some of these magazines of repute, of which I am a huge fan and read very, very regularly, they're not dressed up. They're very simple. The writing should stand for itself. And I think that if you have to resort to, and again, this is a perception, to, dressing it up and glossy images and fancy, then really, why do you need to do that? Now, in many cases, fashion magazines rely on advertisers, right?
Yeah.
And advertisers, very specific kinds of advertisers who are trying to sell something and to make it look good, right? To stand out against all the other purses and all the other necklaces and all the other handbags that you could be purchasing. So there's that element as well. I think also that when it comes to things such as fashion, it's ever changing. It's not static. And because of that, the decision making around it can feel somewhat flippant. Because as the movie highlights to us, so few of us understand what goes into that decision making, right? Though that scene in the movie that I think is done so beautifully, that highlights how important and how many decisions and how long of a trajectory a simple decision such as, what am I going to wear today? Oh, I really like this color yellow in the shirt that I bought from Banana Republic. I'm off the top of my head. That what it takes for that to even exist. So few of us understand, and what an average reader or viewer sees is just a changing season. The fall look of this year is very different than the fall look of last year. It feels flippant. It feels transitory. It doesn't feel anchored in anything that has value, that has rigor.
Yeah.
And in reality, that's not the case at all, right? But many of us just don't have access to that understanding of what it takes. And I think for that reason, that level of it feels somewhat arbitrary gives it that sense of, this can't be that important.
Yeah, that's it. And it kind of made me think of just like how we think about the arts in general. Like, when we think about saving a budget in public programs, like, oh, you cut the arts programs and that kind of thing. And it's just like, it's like there's this feeling of if there's no practical value, then I don't understand why like it needs to be a priority kind of thing. And I find I hear that sometimes. And it did kind of make me think about that. And I felt like that was kind of on display here in an interesting way.
Yes, except I agree with you. I agree with you that arts, if it doesn't have a practical value, and is it going to change the trajectory of is investing in the arts going to have a real impact in terms of jobs and contributing to the GDP of a country? These are obviously really, really big issues. But at the same time, right, I think we have better examples today of the power of fashion and the power of clothing and the power of utilizing these as forms of expression and identity that I think have not necessarily been appreciated. And so I hope that carries through. The fact that, the movie helps us, that, as I said earlier, peeking behind the curtain to see what it's really like, it added that layer of legitimacy for the average viewer, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It does, it matters. And your desire to want to see the evolution of Andy, right? Because that visual transformation is so clear.
Yeah.
As her personal transformation is occurring throughout the movie. Oh,
that's very true. And I felt like her personality was coming out through her clothes in an interesting way. Like when she was like allowed herself to explore that.
Yeah.
And no, that's a really good point. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, on that note, maybe just to wrap things up with like a fun question.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite outfit
I
from
did.
the movie? Okay, tell me. What was it?
Well, why don't you go first?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, well, one of mine was Andy's. At some point, I think she was at a dinner where she was wearing an all black fit.
Yep.
And it was like a black dress, like some layered chain necklaces. And it kind of had a bit of a gothy kind of rocker vibe to it.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, that looks pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Like that's such a, and just thinking about how, outfits can express different parts of your personality. That was one I was like, oh, she's not a princess in like the bright, colorful kind of way. Like she's kind of owning it in her own like subdued colors and that sort of thing. And I thought that was really interesting. I gravitated towards that one.
Okay, so here's my take on this. So I thought about this because I knew you would ask me in advance, what would be a favorite outfit? And oddly enough, the one I keep coming back to and the one I cannot get out of my head is the one that no one actually wears.
Ooh.
So they're in that scene where everyone's in Miranda's office and Miranda takes the time to explain, right, the value of fashion and how it is that, poor Andy is wearing that lumpy blue cerulean sweater. There is someone who's holding a dress that's made of tulle and a bit of sparkle. And as the scene unfolds, you watch Miranda add pieces to it to create this outfit. And she puts on this blue belt. There is a embroidered jacket that's sort of a shiny red. And there's even like a hat that sort of gets put aside there. And I kept coming back to that outfit because the way that they've styled that, those elements individually, I don't think somebody would necessarily think, this cap, this Renaissance style hat really needs to go with this dress. And yet watching them pull that together, I remember thinking, okay, that's pretty neat. It's colorful. And the other thing too that it does, which I think is somewhat interesting, is that particular outfit reminds me of a character around that same time who's not in the movie, but is also synonymous with New York, which is Carrie Bradshaw from Sex and the City. And so watching that scene and seeing that outfit pulled together, I just remember thinking, I know who would be wearing that.
Yeah.
And it's Carrie Bradshaw in Sex and the City.
Wow, interesting. Yeah.
And so that outfit I can't get out of my mind. And if our listeners and viewers go back and see that, I'd love to hear if you agree with my assumption.
Totally. Cool. Amazing. So, okay. Well, I'm going to speak directly to the audience now. I'm curious what you think. Would you work at Runway Magazine? Tell us why or why not. Leave it in the comments. If you liked this style of content, it's a little different for us. Something we're trying over the summer. Management in the movies. Subscribe. Let us know. Maybe it's something we can explore more content like this in the future. Can
I ask you a question, Eric?
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Eric, what are you wearing?
Right now?
Yes.
Oh, I couldn't tell you. Honestly, I'm trying to, I should get more colorful clothes. I'm learning. Like, this is about as colorful as I get. It's like a light blue with a pattern. Yep. I picked it up years ago for my first job. I was like, I need formal clothes. I was working in a healthcare institute.
Nice.
And I was still kind of figuring out what to wear.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should be more expressive. Of my clothing.
It looks great.
Thank
it looks
you.
Great.
Well, you too. It's,
well, I wanted to say this is a dress shirt from my late grandfather-in-law. And so for me, wearing clothes and items from family members, just it keeps them close to me. So
that's amazing.
I think just another angle. So this is from that.
There's meaning in clothes. Yeah.
There's a lot of meaning in clothes.
Well, Professor Sabine Dhir, thank you.
Thank you, Eric. This has been wonderful.